Stern had approached us to use our business model as a thesis for one of their semesters, and I had worked with them sort of on a weekly basis talking about our business, and it was really interesting because we have a very sort of non-traditional business model in terms of how we've gone after business from a niche perspective. And as an entrepreneur, we didn't set out in, I think, a manner for which many entrepreneurs do. It wasn't this, okay, well, we're going to start a business and here it is and we know we're going to do this. It really just was a very simple extension of things we already were doing and we knew and we loved, and it felt good because...
And that we were very passionate about. I mean, I think that was definitely, you have to really be willing to roll up your sleeves and you become a jack of all trades, so to speak. And in many ways, that's a great education because even as your business grows and you start delineating responsibilities to other things, you know how to do every single job in an organization.
But even in talking to MBA students, there's this sort of, well, when is there a time when you don't need to get an MBA because you have so much experience in your business that it doesn't really matter, it's not going to take you to the next level? And I think that the time for starting this business was then. Like, we didn't need to have, in my opinion, for what we were doing, we didn't necessarily feel we needed to have the MBA to get us to be here. It was just really sort of natural at that point. So experience for me, one of the things that I always talk about is having that level of experience on from so many different directions was really what I think helped us be, to get to where we are today.
And you have to be tenacious, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, we're partners in life. I mean, although I guess that's not totally untraditional.
No.
I mean, families and couples have done that together.
But I mean more specifically the model itself, like having written a business plan, which we had some dear friends who had started quite a successful business in Australia, and I used their business model, their business plan, to write a business plan, which took me probably about 6 months after I had left Prada, and then another year in development from start to finish when we launched. And the business itself is sort of a non-traditional aspect of how to go after business, and what we've done is we had set up sort of this idea of a freestanding store sort of being everything for us. It was the store, it was the showroom, it was our opportunity to create sales, it was our distribution center, everything to the brand. So we were sort of sitting in the store waiting on customers, packing boxes that were being shipped to London. It was everything all-encompassing, and it sort of grew organically from there. We didn't take investors. We are self-funded. We have grown only organically. The business has been profitable since its first year, and it has been operational since its first day. So while we put in an initial capital investment to the company, we haven't invested any more of our own money since then. We've only allowed it to grow sort of naturally in its own direction.
Yeah, I think that's actually the thing that's the most untraditional, is that we haven't had a very slick marketing world, that everything has grown organically, and that we don't actually go after business in a traditional way. As a matter of fact, we have never solicited any of our accounts, so everything has sort of come to us, and I think that's unique.
It's left us very exclusive. And having had sort of these backgrounds where we were taking experience, we had, I had many beauty editors who knew who I was and what I was doing, and Andrew had design editors, and so we already had sort of a built-in platform with those. I had had experience doing retail distribution, so there were a certain number of retailers who already knew me and would talk to us about our brand. So in all respects, we had sort of set the stage in sort of a non-traditional manner with basically no money. So, if that answers the question.
So I was the ultimate minimalist. I washed my face, body, hair, and shaved with a bar of Neutrogena. Very clean, rectangle square.
Yes. And I was a beauty buyer for Barney's when it was a family-owned and operated business, so I had like thousands of things available to me that I couldn't use, and I'd bring them home. We knew each other maybe for 2 years at this point, and eventually Andrew started to see that something more than just a bar of Neutrogena soap made a difference.
Yes.
And sometimes when he would sort of vet the various different items, I would be able then to try something, as it was my job to evaluate in the first place, that might in fact be appropriate for my particular skin type.
I think what I learned is or my evolution was that it doesn't necessarily have to be more expensive, but there are definitely differences in quality. And you use a better product, you have better results. But I also found, from just a design perspective, it was Baroque out there. There were so many steps. It was very intimidating. And I'm a firm believer of less is more, not only in architecture and design, but also in your whole lifestyle, that you don't need to do 150 different things just to get out the door. And the fact of the matter is, we live in New York, and our customers live in urban centers. They don't have time for ritualistic 10-step programs, which aren't even efficacious anyway.
But most interestingly, Andrew he's quite oily, and his skin is fairly resilient. Mine is dry and quite sensitive. I suffer from several different existing conditions. And what we found through the years was that, in fact, there were only a few things that were really effective for both of us. And it wasn't a complicated understanding of these, expansive ideas of skincare. It was really a great cleanser and a great moisturizer. And when you started to then look at Neutrogena as a company, and you start to look at Three-Step Clinique, and sort of these very simple ideas, if you can create sort of the best cleanser and the best moisturizer, you've really sort of established the core of what you need.
Yeah, you don't need a tertiary product if you already have the best.
Yes.
So
those were the real voids that we saw in the marketplace, and I think that we've sort of hit home in most of them.
Yeah, and also there was a void. There were very few unisex brands. Most people. So there was an amazing opportunity to literally add 50% to your market by being unisex. And the fact of the matter is, whether you're a man or woman or whatever your ethnicity is, we're all basically biologically the same. So this whole idea of marketing that you're from here, you're from there, and you're masculine, you're feminine is sort of marketing.
It really came down to the idea of how a modern couple could shop for and use products together. Somebody with oily, resilient skin, somebody with dry, sensitive skin, and it didn't matter what your sex was or your race or et cetera, that you could share these products and that they would be really effective and really great.
And even your skin type, whether the pendulum skews one way or the other, most people are somewhere in between and have a combination of different skin conditions on their face, which can change with hormones, with age, with weather, with seasons. So it's always a moving target. So, and we tried to address all those things in a way that other companies haven't done. Yeah, I did, as a matter of fact.
Doesn't he look great? He's like 80 years old.
Yeah, almost, but not quite. Thank you very much. Sometimes I feel like I'm 80, but yeah, no, you do notice it, and you feel better.
I think that there's a lot of sort of passion behind the brand in terms of how it connects with the consumer, that it's real. It's not just another corporation creating a brand for the sake of marketing. We've really tried to do something that was special and unique and fill a void in the marketplace, and to do something from a family-owned and operated approach, something that was local and interesting and specific to our customer base.
And I think also what makes the brand so strong is that we really put so much energy into creating really superior or great products, and people, when they experience something efficacious, they come back and they tell other people. So while we're not advertising and having great marketing campaigns, we have this great almost guerrilla or word of mouth campaign, because people use everything and they love it so much. And we're also really true to the brand. We don't develop things because the season is saying this is in vogue now or this is in vogue tomorrow. We develop products that we really believe the market needs, or that we would actually use. I mean, most of the products were developed around our own lifestyles to a certain extent.
I was going to say the same. Going to say the same. That we, in fact, in terms of filling voids, part of it was addressing our own specific lifestyle in terms of those particular voids. So most of the products and the brand itself really speaks to how we live our lives every single day. And those experiences from Andrew's design background and those experiences from my beauty background, and how we could create something really wonderful and unique and fill these sort of marketplace voids that made a difference in a way that we would use them ourselves because we needed them or we wanted them.
Everything else, technology keeps on rolling on. Sometimes there are benefits to new technology, and sometimes there are things that don't work out so well. So, for instance, what we try to do is we always try to take the best of Mother Nature and combine it with the best of technology. We find that that union works really, really well. We try to stay away from anything experimental or unproven and go back to basics. Mm-hmm. Technology also is unfortunately faddish in the same way that sometimes we see this with food. No fat, low fat, high carbs, high protein. You know, it's what are you supposed to eat? And people tend to jump on a bandwagon that is generated by the press. So one day an ingredient, whether it could be a very efficacious, good ingredient, but if it's fallen out of favor, out it goes, and then the technology has to change to compensate for that. So, but on the other end, you know, technology does bring advances. You know, there's advances in anti-aging and sun protection. So things that are very legitimate, but the knife cuts both ways.
Yeah, I can't think of any real specific technologies, like dramatically different technologies that have come into play. Maybe sunscreen since we started our business.
Yeah, I mean the biggest one would be oil-free moisturizing, which would probably have been in the last 20 years.
Well,
or
I
something.
think it would be more fads, like what you're saying. You know, organic had become a real big thing over the past few years, and it's sort of died down a lot lately, you know, and that was never a bandwagon we jumped on. And as Andrew was saying, you know, we utilize gentle technologies that are tried, true, and trusted, along with those natural ingredients, similarly tried, true, and trusted, in the most gentle, efficacious manner, so that you're never finding irritation and hopefully getting the very best performance. So we're not necessarily looking for what the newest technology is if we can incorporate something that is trustful into the brand.
Yeah, we don't need to reinvent the wheel every single season. And again, we're not against organic ingredients. The problem is that they've been so misrepresented to the customer, saying this is organic, but you look, then you read the ingredients, and it's one ingredient, which is 0.02% of the product. And then the customer finally figures this out and is disappointed, and then they have to ship this organic ingredient halfway from around the world, so the carbon footprint that it produces is so bad for the planet. So,
and it wasn't really organic.
Right.
Was it grown indoors? You know, was there acid rain? You know, I mean,
right. So organic isn't necessarily better always. I mean, what we try to do is always source
in many cases,
locally and use natural when we can, and organic if it's available. But we don't use that as the litmus test because there are many more important things that go into the full formula. We hired somebody to help us with the business. That was just, I should have, you know, when you say you should listen to your instincts, and we were feeling like we were, I don't want to say overwhelmed, but we know we needed a consultant for something, and we knew we needed a consultant, but we weren't really sure how to address it, and somebody had recommended somebody, and we both felt, you know, there was something off, and then it turned out to be very, very off. And I'll look at it that it was a learning experience, and it could have been a lot worse. And you know, we caught it at the beginning, and now it's almost done. But
it's the newest mistake.
I think it is the worst mistake.
I guess maybe
because he was toxic. I mean, that was the worst. It was just someone who lied and cheated, and you know, and it happens. I mean, it's, you know, it's human nature. And
we've made a lot of mistakes, but nothing like big or bad.
Yeah, I mean, we usually catch them at a certain. I mean, the good news is when you're relatively small, all your mistakes are relatively small as well. Mm-hmm. And when you're big, they can be colossal. And so as a young, very supple company, we can recover from, but everyone makes mistakes. I think the real question is, do you make the same mistake twice? I think it's, your gut is important. I think we probably should have done more due diligence. I think it was just, the business was moving very, very fast and frantically. We know we needed somebody, and we were like, all right, let's just do it.
Well, we've had hires that have been sort of gut responses, which have been great, and others that have not. And we've had other hires that weren't necessarily a gut response, but they were hired nonetheless. And again, terrific ones, you know,
Yeah,
where
I
we
think
weren't necessarily,
the
it
lesson
wasn't the
is,
first
you know,
choice.
after 2-3 weeks what you have, and we probably should have reacted more quickly than we actually did.
For a company of our size, the thing that I think is most crucial in terms of what we do is hiring somebody that culturally is a good fit. And if they're smart and they fill the position in a manner for which they have experience or we feel is appropriate, et cetera, having the cultural fit and the passion for the business is probably the biggest hurdle. Because we're only 20 people, of which 10 of those are working sort of right out of our office in New York City. And I think that's the most crucial aspect of where we are for this size today.